Good morning, beloveds.
Good morning.
I'm Reverend Robin. I'm one of the ministers here at Beacon, where we seek to be radically inclusive, to feed the human spirit, and yes, to heal the world. As part of our acts of inclusion, we share our pronouns. Mine are she, her, and we offer a visual description. And so I am an average height, middle-aged white woman wearing a seafoam green top. We welcome you in this place of theologies and spiritualities. From atheist to Christian, Buddhist to humanist, we say that there are many paths to the values we share of justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, generosity, these values all centered in the spiritual discipline of love. So it is in that act of love that we say, welcome. Welcome to all of you. Your questions, your answers, your joys, your sorrows, across experiences and wonderings, we gather to worship, that is, to consider what is of worth, in a place where we companion each other to find meaning and purpose. Today we are going to be exploring and sharing about our tri-partnership. We have been in partnership with Unitarians in Transylvania, which is in Romania, but they are Hungarian. Long story there. We have been in partnership for 33 years. And just 5 years ago, we added a third partner to this team with the Unitarian Church in Jowai, India. We are learning and practicing the spiritual discipline of love now across continents. And so as we begin this special service, I invite you to take a deep breath, center in. I'm going to begin with the words of the poet Anne Sexton, but first I invite you to listen to the sound of this bell, to call yourself into a stillness. Welcome, morning. There is joy in all. In the hair I brush each morning, in the cannon towel newly washed that I rub my body with each morning. In the chapel of eggs I cook with each morning, in the outcry from the kettle that heats my coffee each morning. In the spoon in the chair that cry, "Hello there, Anne," each morning. In the Godhead of the table that I set my silver plate cup upon each morning, all this is God right here in my pea green house each morning. And I mean, though often forget, to give thanks, to faint down by the kitchen table in a prayer of rejoicing as the holy birds at the kitchen window peck into their marriage of seeds. So while I think of it, let me paint a thank you on my palm for this laughter of the morning, lest it go unspoken. The joy that isn't shared, I've heard, dies young.
Good morning. My name is Jermaine Kripe. I am your lifespan coordinator. I am an average height, plus size African-American woman who's fighting her grays with blue and black hair dye, with blue glasses on. Could I get a helper this morning to light our chalice? Benjamin, come on up. And as Benjamin uses the small candle to light the big candle, we had to get directions last time, it didn't work. I'm going to share this reading from Craig Rowland. I breathe in the warmth of this light, its glow filling the spaces where fear and doubt reside. I breathe out the tension I carry. I release what no longer serves me. I breathe in the strength of our community, a sanctuary of diverse voices and shared purpose. I breathe out the urge to go it alone. I embrace the power of togetherness. I breathe in the courage to speak truth even when it trembles on my lips. I breathe out the silence that holds me back. I make space for honesty and justice. I breathe in the hope of transformation, knowing we are all here to build and to heal. I breathe out despair, trusting that change is born in small acts of love. As we light this chalice, may each breath remind us of the sacred rhythm of life, the pulse of creation, and the power we hold to shape the world around us.
Good morning. I invite you to stand and rise as you are able, and we're going to sing hymn 112, Do You Hear? Do you hear, oh my friend, in the place where you stand, through the sky, through the land? Do you hear, in the heights, in the plain, in the vale, on the main, in the sun, in the rain? Do you hear, through the roar, through the rush, through the throng, through the crush? Do you hear in the hush of your soul, of your soul? Hear the cry, fear won't still. Hear the heart call to will. Hear a sigh, startling trill in your soul, in your soul. From the place where you stand to the outermost strand, do you hear, oh my friend? Do you hear, all the dreams, all the dares, all the sighs, all the prayers? They are yours, mine, and theirs. Do you hear,
It's a Wonder Box Sunday. Who would like to help me with the Wonder Box? Oh, that hand went up fast. Come on up here. Come. Now you have a very big task. You need to give us your name and how old are you?
I'm 6 and I'm Ava.
Nice to meet you again, Ava. Come on up here and let's show folks what's inside the Wonder Box. Do you want to open it or do you want me to help? You got it. Okay. Careful. What's inside there?
Picture.
Can you pull them out? Could you show everybody? Do you know who those people are?
No.
What if I told you that they were your family? What would you say?
No.
No. Well, you know what? They're a different kind of family. They're one of those families that we call a family of choice. Thank you so much, Ava. Let's give Ava a hand. You head on back to your mom. The photos that Ava showed you are pictures from visits from our congregation and our partners in Barot, a visit to their congregation when it was just 2 of us in a partnership. But in this one, there's 3 because we're a part of something now called a tri-partnership. Does anyone know what that is? No? Well, think about the word tri. It's 3 groups. What we found is that Beacon members have been in a relationship with the Unitarian congregation in Barot, Transylvania, which is in Romania, for over 33 years. And during the COVID epidemic, we had an epiphany. You know what? We're trapped in our houses. We are feeling a need to connect, but we want to go big when we get out of this. So we decided amongst ourselves to find a third partner with us. And it just so happened that there was a Unitarian congregation in Jowai, India, that was looking for a partner. And we decided, after many conversations over Zoom every month, to start to build a relationship with them. So members of all three congregations met by Zoom, got to know each other, our various theologies, our hopes, our dreams, our joys, our concerns. We shared them all and began planning visits, because that's what you do with family, right? You don't just sit at home and talk on Zoom. The first chance you get, you go to their house and have a meal and learn about their community and what they love and what they do. And so you can imagine how very different it was. Us in Summit, a New York City suburb, going to a coal mining village in the mountains of Romania. And then later, in the hills of the Jowai Hills in India, visiting them as well. So in March in 2023, 3 people from our congregation here at Beacon and 4 members of the Barot congregation made the journey from Summit to the first in-person meeting of this tri-partnership. There was a lot of airfare involved and about 6 hours of driving from the airport. So there was a lot of driving involved, but the members of the Jowai church opened their homes and joined their UU siblings in visiting numerous churches and tourist sites and in the steep, beautiful hills. And they showed us their home, the beauty of their community. They shared meals and they shared their adventures, and we had laughter. So as it was described to me by many of the folks who attended, in the back of my mind, I kept hearing like Earth, Wind, and Fire blasting out of the speakers in my dad's backyard and raucous games of spades, because it sounded like a family reunion. And I just love that idea that we have a family of choice that we have created globally with 2 congregations that we never probably would have run into or interacted with them. To the point of where even our youth, some of our youth who went on trips years and years ago, met now young adults in Europe on vacations when they were in between colleges and in between jobs. And they just so happened to connect with some of the youth that they had either had visited us or that they had stayed with when they went to Barot. And so their family, regardless of what they look like and where they come from, because it's always good to share good times together. So can you do me a favor and help me remember this international family that we have between Barot and Jowai? In particular, because they're coming to visit us this October. And we are going to need hosts and friends willing to make our siblings feel right at home here. I hope you'll be one of those people with me. Will you? Maybe, maybe not, Benjamin said. But you know what? Isn't making lifelong connections and welcoming others into our global family worth that time and energy? I think so. And here ends our time for all ages.
Good morning. My name is Eric Solberg. My pronouns are he and him. I'm an older, tall man with grayish hair and a blue check shirt. I enjoy speaking about my involvement with the Beacons Tri-Partnership. As you know, it includes a church in Barot and a church in Jowai, India. For the many decades it was going on, though, I was not available for work to go, but my work schedule freed up with retirement and allowed me to be part of the partnership going to India in March of 2023. After that, I was completely hooked, and I went again to the Barot Church in Transylvania this past August. So just some reflections about that I'd like to share with you. What attracted me to the partnership program was the concept of a homestay. Although I traveled to places around the world, I usually stayed in hostels or hotels and would eat in restaurants and visit museums, go on hiking trips and so on, maybe like what you have done. This gave me a view of a country probably very similar to that shared by many tourists visiting that country. However, connecting personally with someone who lived there, learning about their day-to-day lives and their culture was missing. A homestay begins with the family greeting you on your arrival and taking you to their home. You become acquainted with other family members who greet you warmly, give you food, always food, and show you your bedroom. You're tired. We were treated like relatives that they liked. The days that followed would include trips into town or to sites in the countryside, beautiful countryside in both places. We would meet others in the Unitarian community and at church events. Over a meal, a cup of tea, a walk in the forest, we shared stories and asked questions about our lives, our families, and our country. Both of the churches in our partnership are mostly in poor rural communities where several generations of family are connected. In Jowai, we visited a number of Unitarian churches and toured several Unitarian schools. One school principal asked me, because I have a background in special education, to give a talk to the teachers about our educational practices in working with kids with mild and moderate and severe disabilities. We were also fortunate to hear about presentations of grant-funded projects, often led by members of the Jowai Church, to improve farming techniques, eradicate AIDS, improve literacy, mitigate seasonal flooding, and many other projects. These were all done like NGOs, fund NGO grants. We visited historic areas surrounding the founding of the first Unitarian Church in the 1800s. Once after leaving a Unitarian church in a small town, we observed a large wedding that had spilled from a nearby church onto the street. It was a colorful and very festive event. During my visit, I stayed with Kiki and Kimley and their 2 girls. They lived in a large home that had been passed down the maternal line to Kimley. One morning, after a breakfast of porridge, eggs, and homemade bread, Kiki took the older girl to school. A live-in mother's helper, she was a girl from the country, lived in the household. She cleaned up and helped the mom. And Kimley then surprised me by asking if I would visit her mother, who had been asking to meet me. She then surprised me we went out the back door instead of the front door of the house, and we walked up a little hill behind her house, and there were other houses. We were right in the middle between houses, the back door of houses. And it turned out there were relatives of her all had owned several of these houses in the back there. After meeting her mother and having a cup of tea, always a cup of tea, we visited houses that belonged to 2 of her uncles, where I was warmly welcomed and offered sweets. I like that. And the majority of questions I asked, that I was asked, were not about America, but about my family. How old were my children? Did I have pictures to show them? Did they have jobs? Etc. One uncle, who spoke excellent English, said the biggest problem they faced was how to get their adult sons to move out of the house after they had finished schooling. He said they just wouldn't leave. In Barot, this past August, I stayed with Kinga and Odie and their 2 young children. Odie worked full-time for his brother and had to drive 1 hour each way to work. Kinga was an 8th grade geography teacher in the local schools. Their cinder block house had 4 small rooms, but the backyard went on for over 150 feet. Neighboring houses had this same rectangular layout, all very long. The backyard was like a farm. It had fruit trees of many kinds, a very large walnut tree, and rows of tomato plants and other vegetables. The fruit from several plum trees was used to make a very popular brandy for special occasions and some not so special occasions. Although Kinga's parents lived on the next block, had the same type of house, and they helped with babysitting, I didn't know how she had time to live. She had to go to work on a full-time job in schools, 3 different schools. She harvested the crops and took care of the children. And she spent a lot of time with the partnership. We also visited local businesses such as a leather shop, a skilled iron worker who was famous all over Romania. And we also participated in a traditional way of baking bread in the countryside in outdoor ovens. Local dance groups also performed at a church service we went to, and for us, I'm sure. For our touring around the countryside, we were led by many of the local hosts who drove us in their cars or vans. They shared our experiences and answered our questions. Many of them arranged their work schedules, took days off, so they could be with us. Language issues were handled by many of our hosts or their teenage sons who spoke English pretty well. Back in America, we follow up on these relationships by having a monthly Zoom call where we discuss happenings in our churches, our towns, and our countries, and our politics. We also can connect on WhatsApp, a great app. It's not the same, but it can help until the next visit. Here in Summit, we'll be welcoming our friends in October, as you heard about. If you're interested in being part of it, come to a barbecue, stay after church one day, come with us on a visit to New York City, go to a museum. We would love to have you. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Kathy Menendez. My pronouns are she, hers. For visual cues, I'm a shorter, mature white woman with blonde hair, wearing yellow today, not blue, and a burgundy scarf, which indicates I'm a member of the chaplain team here at Beacon. I thought that was me, sorry. As chaplains, we extend the spiritual care of the community by offering intentional compassion through presence and listening. If you would like to meet with a chaplain, talk with me or a member of the lead ministry team after the service. Chaplains also facilitate the weekly ritual of community candle lighting, and together we light candles of joy, sorrow, and gratitude. This morning, we light a candle of love and support to Reverend Carol Haig, whose beloved husband Carl died this past week. Reverend Carol was our director and then minister of religious education for many years, and she is now our minister emerita. A candle of support and healing to Jim Johnson, who just returned home from the hospital. A candle in memory of Alexis Herman, the first Black Secretary of Labor who served in President Bill Clinton's cabinet. She will be missed. A candle in memory of Pope Francis, who was laid to rest this week. We honor his dedication to the poor and the marginalized. And we have a prayer request from Errol de los Santos, a member of our congregation. There was an anti-imperialist, anti-colonization Filipino cultural celebration called Lapu-Lapu Day in Vancouver, Canada, celebrating the delay of the Spanish colonization of the Philippines by Datu Lapu-Lapu. Someone drove a car through the parade, killing 9 people. As details unfold as to who drove the vehicle and their motivation, we share our deepest condolences to the families of those individuals with whom Errol shares an indigenous heritage. A candle of sorrow for all those suffering due to the violence and unrest in Jammu and Kashmir. And as May is Mental Health Awareness Month, a candle for all who struggle with mental health issues, as well as the care providers who support them. And as a reminder to all of us, calling 988 instead of 911 is the best and safest option during mental health emergencies. For this and for so much more, we invite you now to come forward to light a candle here in our sanctuary, at home, or wherever you may be.
Thank you, Vicki. And Jackie Jones, welcome back. In a moment, as Jackie sings, we are going to have a slideshow of some of our photos from the various trips that we had. And I promise it will be enjoyable, not like, and here we are at the mountain. And so hope you can enjoy these photos, which will be available for those of you on the live stream as well. Jackie.
There's a place in your heart, and I know that it is love. And this place could be much brighter than tomorrow. And if you really try, there's no need to wonder or cry. In this place, you'll feel there's no hurt or sorrow. There are ways to get there. If you care enough for the living, make a little space. Make a better place. Heal the world. Make it a better place. For you and for me and the entire human race. There are people dying. If you care enough for the living, make a better place for you and for me. If you want to know why, there's a love that cannot lie. Love is strong, it only cares for joyful giving. And if we try, we shall see. In this bliss we cannot feel fear or dread. We stop existing and we start living. And then it feels that always the love's enough for us growing. Make a better world. Make a better world. Heal the world. Make it a better place for you and for me and the entire human race. Yes, there are people dying. If you cared enough for the living, make a better place for you and for me. And the dream we once conceived in will reveal a joyful face. And the world we once believed in will shine again in grace. Then why do we keep strangling life? Will this earth crucify its soul? Though it's plain to see this world is heavenly, be God's glow. We can fly oh so high. Let our spirits never die. In my heart, you're my brothers and my sisters. Create a world with no fear. Together we'll cry happy tears. See the nations turn their swords into plowshares. Yes, we could really get there if we cared enough for the living. So make a little space. Make a better place and heal the world. Yes, make it a better place for you and for me and the entire human race. There are people dying. If we cared enough for the living, we make a better place for you and for me. Feel free to sing along. Heal the world, yes. Make it a better place for you and for me and the entire human race. There are people dying, and if we care enough for the living, make a better place for you and for. Sing it, sound good. Sing it one more time. Heal the world, yes. Make it a better place for you and for me and the entire human race. There are people dying, and if we cared enough for the living, make a better place for you and for me. Make a better place for you and me, y'all. Come on. Make a better place for you and for me. Sing it again. Come on. Yes. Make a better place for you and for me.
Good morning. My name is Mary Parker. My pronouns are she, her. I'm 5'5", wearing a black dress and glasses, and I have a brown hair and a bun. I'm excited today to share a little about my experience traveling to Barot, Romania in 2024 as part of our partnership with the Barot Unitarian Church. Speaking for myself, I didn't prepare well for this trip. My big mistake was deciding not to pack a change of clothes in my carry-on. Our journey there was rough, starting with a delayed flight, an unexpected extra day in Frankfurt, and then 2 more days without my luggage. On our first full day in Barot, we hiked through a forest, over boulders, across rope bridges, and up the side of a cliff to visit a cave that was also home to a colony of bats. Hiking back, we were caught in heavy rain, and I was completely drenched head to toe. It was harder and messier than I had anticipated, and my skinny jeans and walking shoes did not help. I'm so grateful to Susanna, who lent me her sweater once I made it back. As someone who is admittedly pretty high maintenance, those first few days were very humbling. My host family, Tina, and her husband, Albert, and her father, Ferenz, showed me incredible kindness during my stay. Tina lent me clothes while my luggage was in transit, and every morning she made me a beautiful breakfast, even though it was so early and I was struggling to get up on time. I deeply appreciated their patience and hospitality. I am similarly very grateful to the Barot minister Zofie and her husband Shandor, who hosted my parents. They truly went above and beyond, making my parents feel so loved. My mom continues to learn Hungarian since coming back. During our time in Transylvania, we visited a fortified Unitarian church, first built in the 1300s, a Unitarian school founded in 1793. We learned about their history as settlers, how they were once a part of Austria-Hungary, but after World War I, they became a Hungarian-speaking ethnic minority in Romania. We learned about their hardships under a dictatorship that only ended pretty recently in 1989, and how life has improved since then. We had differences. For example, everyone there drives stick shift. That was humbling. I cannot drive manual. But even across oceans and with different languages, we found similarities, from the younger members enjoying some of the same songs and video games to a community struggling with bureaucracy and policing. I'm so excited for our continuing partnership, especially for when folks from Barot and Jowai visit us in October. I encourage all of us here at Beacon to show the same kindness, hospitality, and generosity that they have so lovingly shown us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary, and I am glad you were reunited with your luggage, having been on that trip. I know it was a little daunting. Beloved, today's offering will go entirely to our preparations for hosting our partners from India and from Transylvania in October. We are hoping to give them the extravagant welcome that they have so generously offered us time and time again. So I thank you for your generosity. Every gift will count toward the experience that we will hopefully be able to host for them when they come here. Thank you so much. Our morning offering will now be most gratefully received.
As we do the offering, I invite you to sing along with hymn 134, Our World is One World.
The joy that isn't shared, I've heard, dies young, concludes the poet and sexton. As we enter the final Sunday of our theme for this month, which is joy, I have been thinking a lot about our partnership with Transylvania and with India. Yes, of course, because I knew that this service was coming up, and because we're planning for the trip in October, and yes, in part because of the 40-member Transylvanian youth choir that was here this past weekend. Anyone get to hear them singing last Sunday, or maybe on their Friday concert? And yay to the many, many homestays that members of this congregation offered to host those 40 youth. But I've also been thinking about our tri-partnership because of the joy that I have found through partnership. You see, when I speak of joy, joy is more than happiness. It exceeds a certain circumstance or event. When we talk about joy, joy is like coming deep from within. It's a connection to the universe itself. For me, joy is the very evidence that there is goodness in the world, that there's some kind of energy and life force, even in the midst of the worst of what humanity can perpetrate. Joy, we know, is a force that you can't control. You can't strategically plan it to arise. It emerges, sometimes out of seeming nothingness. And it is joy, at the risk of sounding like an unrelenting extroverted theologian, it is joy that I most often find in partnership. Not only relationship itself, but partnership. partnership, which denotes some kind of co-creation, some equality, some choice of being in relationship together. When we began our partnership with Jowai, India, we wanted to ensure that it was a relationship of equal partners. But this was no easy task, because by the time we began reaching out to the Unitarian Church in Jowai, we had already been in partnership with Barot, Transylvania for 28 years. How were we possibly going to create a relationship of equality when we had such a long-term relationship? And to add to this, when we were finally ready to launch this partnership and we were just beginning in our conversations, it was late February of 2020. As we gathered over Zoom calls, navigating time zones and languages, we also wondered, it was palpable, would we ever be able to do an in-person visit? Would we ever know each other beyond the Zoom screen? And what kind of relationship were we going to be able to create? What kind of partnership of equality were we going to be able to engender if all of our meetings were on Zoom? Those early conversations were very challenging. But then something kind of remarkable happened, and I have to credit Jean Crichton, who has been a longtime leader in our tri-partnership. Jean suggested that we create a covenant together, a set of agreements of how we would be in relationship. And everyone, maybe from the haze of COVID and being on Zoom screen, seemed to think that it was a fine idea. But none of us were really overjoyed, I would say, about creating this covenant. We each sent representatives, and those representatives started meeting on their own Zoom meetings. And after a couple of months, they were ready to present the covenant to us and get our feedback and see if all of our congregations could agree to it. Now, most of the covenant was what you would expect, how we would be respectful, how we would show up for each other, how we would continue to put our time and energy into the partnership. But this one part of the covenant surprised me. It said that we would promise to raise issues and problems related to climate change, racism, widening the gap between the rich and the poor, environmental degradation, violence, war, and ignorance in our conversations. Are you kidding me? I thought. We are just getting to know each other. It's a global pandemic. Anxiety is through the roof. And you want us to pledge, to promise to raise issues and problems related to climate change, racism, widening the gap between the rich and the poor, environmental degradation, violence, war, and ignorance. This is a recipe for disaster, I thought. We're never going to be able to create a positive relationship. But I was completely wrong. Through this covenant, our Zoom sessions went deeper. We not only talked about our similarities and surface pleasantries, but we actually went deeper, authentically. We talked about our differences, and sometimes we had really big gaps. I still remember the conversation where some of our Transylvanian partners in the height of the pandemic were saying, I don't think anyone has COVID in our town. As our Indian partners were watching family member and neighbors in astronomical rates dying from COVID. But we stayed in relationship. We stayed in partnership. And something maybe even more mysterious emerged to me, and that was joy, even across the Zoom screen. The joy of being in a chosen relationship where we were equals and we were creating something together. It was a time when everything was on Zoom, everything was on cameras. I used to preach in the sanctuary just looking at that camera, and it was completely empty. We even had schedules, if you might remember, so that none of our staff overlapped. And it was miserable. I used to have to gear myself up every Saturday and say, okay, we're going to do this again. We're going to do this. So you would think that another Zoom session would be the last thing I would want to be on. But this was the one session that I always made sure I had on my calendar correctly. I was always double checking and triple checking the time zones to make sure that I didn't miss our tri-partnership calls. And by the time we got to our in-person meeting in Jowai, India, which we did get to, it was remarkable how connected I already felt to people that I had only known through a screen. In the late 20th century, James Luther Adams, a Unitarian Universalist theologian, wrote about the power of what he called voluntary associations, those groups that you choose of your own free will to be a part of. You aren't born into them or forced or coerced into them. According to Reverend Dr. Tandeyaka, a Unitarian Universalist theologian as well, the church, Adams argued, is a voluntary association that attends to the well-being of its members, as well as to the organization and direction of their collective behavior. It promotes social, political, and economic change in the wider world. In voluntary associations, Adams insisted, we gain the power to not only negotiate our own internal feelings with others, but we also gain power as a group to negotiate changes in the non-voluntary associations that rule our lives. Long before we would place love at the center of our values and talk about the spiritual discipline of love, James Luther Adams described that same love as the center of these religious voluntary associations. As an aside, someone recently told me in a public meeting when I said that Unitarian Universalism is centered in love, she said, well, any religion can say they're centered in love. No, they can't, I thought. No, they cannot. As Reverend Dr. Tandeyaka continues, Adams redefined the traditional meaning of terms like God, for example, in order to explain divine love as the devotional foundation of a liberal faith for both theists and atheists. Love, Adams argued, can be found in each of three dimensions to the realm of human privacy. It formed that energy force. First, love pertains to our relationship with our inmost creative, redemptive power. Love, second, pertains to how we feel about ourselves. And finally, love is how we feel when we are with others. So these voluntary associations or partnerships, if you will, are some of the strongest forces Adams and Reverend Dr. Tandeyaka argue, the strongest forces to transform the world, including our local communities. Part of the challenge, I think, right now is not just the particular political environment we find ourselves in, but we are in this political environment coming out of a protracted period of loneliness and isolation. We are still carrying with us all of the traumas and forces of COVID. And it creates a sense of despair and exhaustion, a sense at times even of powerlessness. And we see more and more people trying to numb away that pain of loneliness, that pain of disenfranchisement with drugs, with alcohol, with food, with other numbing agents. But I think that the real antidote to this crisis are authentic relationships, are voluntary associations. Because it is in these relationships and partnerships of honesty, of equality, a freely chosen association, that not only is the despair and the exhaustion eased, but joy emerges. The joy that isn't shared, I've heard, dies young. This joy emerges in unlikely and surprising voluntary associations, like, say, a city council meeting, on an ordinary Tuesday, where people led by their values gathered in a small little town, maybe one like Summit. Maybe called together by their conviction that homelessness should never be criminalized. And maybe called by that value of inclusion, called to the spiritual discipline of love. They would find themselves a sudden yet powerful voluntary association. And maybe in that voluntary association, which is not for the faint of heart, let's be honest, because this hypothetical city council meeting might have hypothetically gone into the early hours of the next day. And you might find yourself at 1 a.m. in a glorious voluntary association. And what might come out of that is not only a change in the outcome of that meeting, that city council might back up and say, okay, we've heard you. We aren't going to vote. We're going to engage in more conversation. Because clearly something is happening if you're freely choosing to be with us until 1 in the morning. But something else happened in that voluntary association. Not only the change of the outcome of that council meeting, but something happened to the people who chose to be there. Instead of engaging in a battle and feeling disheartened and alone, they suddenly found a bit of joy. And maybe it was just the euphoria of being awake at 1 in the morning. I don't know. But there was a joy that started to emerge in the room as people met new friends, new family, chosen family, to quote Jermaine. As they started to realize, hey, wait a minute, I'm not alone in this idea. I'm not alone in this world. I'm not alone in this place. And from that, a joy, a deep joy, not a happiness that was connected to a particular outcome of an event, but a joy reemerged. You see, joy in the partnership arises from the authenticity to have the hard conversations and to risk showing yourself. We are all changed by this kind of partnership. When we began our partnership with Barot, we did not often speak of LGBTQ advocacy. In Romania, there still is, and was then, as there is here, discrimination and struggle for the LGBTQ community. And we weren't sure how to have those conversations, or even, frankly, what our partner church might think. And so when I was first asked to go to Barot, Transylvania in 2019, I had a hesitancy. As an out lesbian, as a pretty vocal social justice advocate, I was going to go to a place I did not know, stay with people I did not know, and I wasn't sure how it was going to work out. And I still remember traveling there and bringing along my son Benjamin, who was a baby. And when I preached, sharing just in a quick word about my wife, and I scanned the sanctuary to see if there was any hostility and what that receiving line was going to be like. Flash forward. In conversation recently with Reverend Alud, who shared that the Unitarians in Transylvania are opening the discussions about LGBTQ affirmation across Romania. They are the only church doing so in Transylvania. And when Reverend Jolt called me for the homestays and said, hey, let's try to create, some opportunities for the youth to get to know local folks in New Jersey, at the end of the call, after we were, designating youth to different homes, Jolt said to me, well, I have something I have to ask you. I just don't know. I don't really know how to say it. And I just said, Jolt, we're in New Jersey, just, spit it out. Direct is good, my friend. And Joel said, well, I was just wondering, are any of these families LGBTQ? And I just felt the sink and the fear in my body. And I said, well, yeah, Joel, my household too. And I'm going to be hosting. And he said, oh, great. That's fantastic. Because the youth are really hoping that they can be hosted by some queer families. There is transformation and learning for all of us in this tribe partnership. Our Indian siblings are teaching us about how to survive Hindu nationalism and what we can learn and practice here in the face of Christian nationalism. There is transformation and learning in the partnership. People ask me all the time, Robin, how are we going to get through this moment in our country, this time in our communities? And I answer, together is the only way. To quote the Reverend Dr. Rebecca Parker, together, that is another possibility waiting. Freely chosen partnerships, voluntary associations, joining and not letting fear keep us at the edges. So I say, come in, beloved, to a freely chosen and co-created living religion. Come into the strength and the renewal of authentic partnership centered in love. Be a joiner, and all over again, even if you've chosen it 1,000 times, choose Unitarian Universalism. Across cultures and continents, join us in the partnership to feed the human spirit, and yes, to heal the world. Amen.
I'd like to thank Reverend Dr. Robin for that wonderful, wonderful talk. Yes, and we will get through this. Love will guide us, and we're going to be singing that. It's hymn 131, and we invite you to stand as you are able. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us. Peace that tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
Would you please take hands with one another for our closing blessing? Thank you again, Jackie. Thank you, Vicki. It was an honor leading our service with you. There is an old Swedish proverb that teaches that in their sharing, our joys are multiplied, and in their sharing, our sorrows are halved. So may you go forth with the gift of community, with the ability and the witness to multiply those joys and to ease every sorrow. Amen, and blessed be.